Back when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a top student. I wanted to be a good athlete. I wanted to read books just so I could become a more interesting person to talk to. But the truth is that none of these things came true. Because when it was time for me to actually study or train, I just could not get myself to do these tasks. And instead, I spent most of my teenage years just trying to entertain myself. And to be honest with you, this was not even fun. I actually felt quite guilty and anxious when I was doing these things. Because deep down, I knew I was procrastinating the important stuff. Fast forward to today, and now my life looks a lot different. I was finally able to overcome procrastination and get the work done. Because of this, I became a software engineer at Fortune 500 companies, got in the best shape of my life, and read multiple books a month. Not just that, I was able to help dozens of other people eliminate procrastination and achieve the results that they finally wanted. In this video, I'm going to share with you the most common causes of procrastination and how you can overcome them. This video is not going to be a quick fix to all your problems, but this video is going to give you a roadmap to eliminate procrastination. So let's get right into it. So before we discuss the right way to beat procrastination, let me tell you about the wrong way and probably the most common way people try to beat procrastination. Most people try to beat procrastination using raw willpower. They might watch a movie or an Instagram reel and get pretty hyped up and decide to fix their lives. And to be honest with you, this motivation-based approach does work for a few days. They start reading, studying, hitting the gym, but a couple of days later, once this willpower runs out, they are back to procrastinating things. I know this because I was this person. My ambition wouldn't let me procrastinate forever, but the reliance on willpower alone would not let me be productive for long. So I was just stuck in this cycle for years. The moral of the story is willpower is nice to have, but it cannot be relied upon long term. In the rest of the video, we are going to be talking about things that actually work in the long run. You know that feeling that you get when you actually want to do something, but you just feel too tied up? Let's call this feeling the anchor. After years of being a serial procrastinator and working with dozens of clients, I have realized that two things put you in this anchored state. The first thing that puts you in this anchored state is your diet. If you're eating processed garbage food, then you're forever going to feel tied down. Fast food is sedating you. So consider this as step zero. You should have done this yesterday. Eliminate all sorts of food that come in packets and have just a bunch of ingredients in them, and eliminate all restaurant made food that is drenched in seed oils and sugars. I've actually done these experiments myself. I worked in a fasted state where I had no food for hours, and then I tried to work right after I had like 2 McDonald's burgers, and the difference was just shocking. When I have processed food inside me, I just feel physically and mentally lazy. And when you are in this state, you are going to procrastinate things. No amount of productivity videos can save you. The second dietary change that has helped me a lot is reducing my carbs, especially early on in the day. What I've realized is that as soon as I have a large carb filled meal early on in the day, my energy levels just crash. I feel like my body just wants to Netflix and chill. But when I do not have carbs, especially early on in the day, then I feel quite sharp and awake. This state is the exact opposite of the anchored state. I call this the propelled state. And when you are in this high energy state, it's kind of hard to not be productive. The third dietary change is probably the least known about, yet the most impactful one. You know, we humans have like a biological clock of our own. It's called circadian rhythm. This clock dictates when we are supposed to be feeling alert and energetic and when we are supposed to feel tired and sleepy. If you're the kind of person that eats at irregular times or just snacks all day long without giving his body a break, then your clock gets disrupted and you feel tired and sleepy when it's time to work, and you feel wide awake when it's actually time to fall asleep. Being in this sort of disrupted state where your energy levels do not match the time of the day, this puts you in this anchored position. So what I've started doing now is that I only eat twice a day at fixed times. And the biggest difference I've noticed is that my energy levels have skyrocketed and they're a lot more consistent throughout the day. So if you're someone who feels tied down a lot, your diet could be the root cause of your procrastination. What if there was something that required little to no effort and it just magically put you in that propelled state of action? And to add on, this thing was absolutely free. How awesome would that be? But guess what? this thing does exist. It is your sleep. Before you skip this section, I'm just not going to wag my finger and tell you to sleep 8 hours a day. We all know we need to sleep 8 hours a day. What most people don't know is that all sleep is not equal. The person who sleeps late at 2 a.m. is still going to be in an anchored state, even if he gets his 8 hours of sleep. Whereas the person who sleeps early, like at 9 or 10 p.m., is going to be in a propelled state when he wakes up. Also, remember how we spoke about that biological clock that is within us? One thing that ensures a strong biological rhythm is going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time every single day. A lot of the clients that I've worked with, they seem to have this philosophy like it's their right to go to bed late on the weekends and wake up pretty late the next day. But what they don't realize is even though they're getting those 8 hours of sleep, they are still going to wake up feeling fatigued and have brain fog and still be in that anchored procrastinating state. Because a lot of these important procedures that happen when you sleep did not happen correctly. But if you actually start taking your sleep very seriously and start optimizing it by getting 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight each morning, because this actually sends the message to your body that, hey, the day has started, time to get up, release the right hormones, and then dimming the lights in your rooms 2 hours before you go to bed. Because this sends the message to your body that, hey, the day is over, start releasing the sleepy hormones. And if you just follow these two protocols for a week, then you're going to wake up in a propelled state, and it's going to be hard for you to procrastinate things. Hey there, if you'd like to figure out what exactly is making you procrastinate and how to overcome it and finally get productive, then make sure that you click on the link in the description and book a one-on-one call with me. Now that you know how to get your body in a propelled state by optimizing your diet and sleep, the question is how to make the best use of this high energy state. Here's a model that will really help you. Every task that you want to do has some form of energy requirement. Easy tasks like brushing your teeth have very low energy requirements. Longer and more intense tasks like completing an assignment have higher energy requirements. If your current energy or the juice that is in you is higher than the energy requirement of the task, then you will get that task done, no problem at all. But if your current energy levels are lower than what is required by the task, then you are going to procrastinate because no one wants to spend that high amount of mental energy, especially when they're lacking in it. What most people try to do is that they try to pump themselves up with motivational videos or caffeine to boost their current energy levels just so they can get that task done. But the problem is this again is a short-term approach. The true secret to eliminating procrastination is not to boost your energy levels, but it is to lower the energy levels required by the task itself. And in the rest of this video, we are going to be discussing strategies that do just that. The first thing that greatly lowers this energy requirement of a task is when there is no friction between you and the task. For example, you plan to wake up tomorrow morning and start studying, and you actually do wake up, but when you go to your desk, you see that your desk is a complete mess, and you realize that the notes that you had to study, they are not even on the table yet. So now not only do you have this task of studying, but you also have this additional task of cleaning your desk and figuring out where the hell your notes are. All of these tiny extra tasks that happen before you actually get to studying is what is called friction. And what friction does is it actually increases the energy requirement of the main task. Now imagine this scenario. Imagine you had cleaned up your entire table, made it spotless, and taken out the exact notes that you would be using tomorrow morning. Then the next day, all you would have to do is just sit on the desk and start studying. I get a lot of clients who have never worked out before, and they ask me things like, should I join this gym that is a 20-minute drive away and the gym fee is kind of high, I might have to save for a few months. And I'm like, bro, you're barely used to this habit and you're adding all this friction to it. It is way better to go to a gym that is just 2 minutes away and doesn't have all that fancy equipment, because step one should be removing all friction between you and that activity. The next thing that lowers the energy requirement of a task is being very specific about it. The more specific you can get on how you intend to do the task, the easier it gets. For example, you actually woke up to study, your desk was clean and your notes were out, but now you're deciding which chapter should you be studying, for how long you should be studying, which subject it is that you would like to start with first, and most importantly, what time should you be studying? Should I be studying now or 1 hour from now? All this ambiguity and decision making is going to make the task of studying way harder. But if you actually decided these things last night, the exact chapter, the exact subject, and most importantly, the exact time at which you would be studying, studying, then the energy requirement of the task becomes really low. And the cool part is when you have the exact times for several such activities, the times that you will read, the times at which you'll go to the gym, then you naturally end up with a routine for yourself. I'm a huge advocate for routines, and the reason why routines are such powerful things is because the more times that you perform your routine, the lower becomes the energy requirements for all the activities that are on your routine. So you might have to push yourself to do these activities for the first 3 or 4 weeks because initially you're not used to them. But after a couple of weeks, these things are just going to become part of your identity. So during this initial first 3 to 4 week period, I follow the principle of microdosing. For example, I have the habit of reading books and working out. For the first few weeks, my goal is to not make earth-shattering effort. I'm not going to try and read half a book a day or try to work out 1 hour a day. My only goal during the initial period is to perform these behaviors at low intensity, just so that I can make these habits part of who I am. Because when something is part of your identity, that is when its energy requirements drop significantly and it begins to feel almost automated. After that initial 3 to 4 week period, once that activity becomes almost effortless, that is when you start stepping up the intensity. But if you go too hard on intensity too soon, you will end up procrastinating that activity. Here's a quick question for you. Which of these tasks seem the hardest to you? And which of these tasks seems the easiest to you? I'm going to finish the entire report. I'm going to finish a chapter in the report. I am just going to finish a paragraph in the report. It's obvious, right? Finishing the entire report seems like a very time-consuming task, whereas finishing a paragraph seems like something simple and quick to do. So when you view your task in their entirety, like finishing a report, then the task appears to have a massive energy requirement. It begins to feel like a mountain to climb. So you pretty much end up procrastinating it. But when you only target a specific subtask from this giant task, then the energy requirement for that subtask becomes very low and you're far more likely to attempt it. So step 1 is to identify that giant task that you're supposed to be doing. For example, it could be something like studying for final exams. Step 2 is to keep breaking down this giant task into smaller and smaller subtasks. So now instead of us thinking about the final exams, let's just focus on one particular subject. Like I am now studying for my math exam, but even this subtask might feel too big and a bit too challenging. So we break it down even further. Now we are going to study a single chapter from my math textbook. So when you finally arrive at a subtask that is small enough to match your current energy level, then you are no longer going to procrastinate it. The principles that we have discussed in this video are definitely going to help you overcome procrastination. But if you don't have the discipline to reject instant pleasure from porn, fast food, doom scrolling, then you're going to be forever stuck procrastinating things. So make sure that you watch this video to learn how to build rock solid discipline.